forget how to dig the soil, tend the earth, is to forget ourselves. Well, maybe some have, but a few of us still know. You gotta be willing to put in the time, make the sacrifices, and the hard choices. The job's got its perks, don't get me wrong. The sweet smell of the morning dew, the way the warm sun and the cool breeze can dance across your skin. But don't think it's a game. The farm's got a way of sorting the wheat from the chaff. Just remember to keep your wits about you. You fall, you get back up again. Because this is more than just a job. It's a calling. Who else would choose to wake up early in the morning, tear up their hands working in the fields all day, and then spend the evening planning how they're gonna do it all over again, better, tomorrow? Day after day. Season after season. Year after year. That's a calling that's never ending. It stretches far forward and back from us as long as farmers have been tending this earth. And farmers will be around as long as such a thing exists. Tomorrow is secured by those willing to dirty their hands today. So when you feel alone out there in the field, just remember, you're not. Think about all those that have come before you. And all those that'll follow. Plant today. Harvest tomorrow.
All right, here we go. Farming Simulator 22. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're located at. This is our Mars Colony 2025 campaign for Farm Simulator 22. It's going to be episode 2. I'm the narrator, Matt Benjamin. There were several different ways I wanted to approach this with the narrator. I wasn't sure if we were going to do it with narration or without narration, and I thought it'd be best to include it, mainly because I play Farming Simulator the most of all the games I play, and I like to try to use it as a way to catch up with the audience, and not everybody that follows us plays Farm Simulator 22, so any chance I get to update people, I normally do. Now, some of our series, like Vampire Masquerade, I'm not doing voiceovers with because I think the game does a really good job at that already. Star Wars is the same way. I feel the game already have a very nice set of voice actors in there, and as a role player, I like to try to keep that immersion as much as I can. Probably going to end up doing Tomb Raider later this year. I don't know where we're going to fit that in the schedule. I did purchase that game. But I've watched a couple other series that I like to follow as a role player. People write these as like journals. And I kind of like that format. And I follow a site. He plays Silent Hunter 3 in Coldwater. A German guy. He does a really good job of narrating in a story type of way with the Silent Hunter 3 and Coldwater, and I like that kind of format, and that's what we're trying to emulate here. And I'm having to record this without sound, so it doesn't record on the voiceover. I'll manage. But right now, um, the game was having problems, and I was doing this all at the same time when I recorded this. It was recorded all at the same period of time, except when we get to the B, what I call the B reel. These are all the A reel, and we were trying to go with the mods already that I like to play with, and then you come along your first point of failure, and we reached that in episode 1, where you couldn't get out of the tractor. It's a known issue. I don't think it's an issue with the mods for those particular tractors. I think it's just the map modder has to allow certain things to happen on the map. I think, I'm guessing, but I imagine when they put the map together, they allow the player to do certain things, checkbox and stuff. So when you're setting up a map, and so when you bring a lot of these modded tractors, they're modded from another tractor, and so I imagine they have to be accounted for. Sometimes they're not because there are many. I don't have a large collection of mods myself, but I have over 200-300 mods that I'm using, and I'm like a small modder type of person. And I imagine people running these large servers where there are 20 and 30 people. Each one of those people have like the mods they like, and then the owner of the server has the ones he likes or she likes, and so and then the guy who made the map has one he likes. So that's where the controversy comes in. So I think it's just a matter of knowing what they are and identifying them for them. Or hopefully the guy who made the map comes across one of our videos one day. We're a small channel. We don't not a big channel. We only got like, well, on Twitch we only have like 230, 240 followers. I think 340 followers. And then on YouTube we're only like 60 some odd people, right? And I think we're like 5 people on X and maybe about 30 people on Facebook. So, but I'm figuring as we can do this more and more every day, that audience is going to certainly grow altogether, one person at a time. So I was going through and checking some mods there. I was making sure that the game wasn't loading up 2 different map mods, being the fox farm that I use on the main farm. Now, at this point of the game, I didn't try to do too much. Try to do simple stuff, mainly to try to understand. When I encounter a fault, I try to understand what's going on with the game and with the mod and what actually is happening behind the scenes. But so that's where we are in this process, and I decided early on in the project to keep those in the video. Sometimes other people following these series, they have their own series, and you might hit something that they never really thought about, so you might be able to help them and figure out something, usually something silly, right? And then so that's why we have a community of at least the players' experience and have a wealth of information for the people making the map and so forth. And there are a lot of traders. Now, we also do a live show. Pretty much, we do the live stream more than the video stream, video series. But we're trying to balance that out. This Mars Colony 2025 is intended just to be a video series, and then I made 2 different maps. This eventually becomes the B map. Get into we're not into the B really yet. We still got this episode has 4 clips of the original clip, and then we're on to our B. Yeah, I'll turn. Everything starts fresh. It's sort of semi-role playing as the character in the story, but also the people making the story. Role playing as the producer of the television series. And that big hole in the ground is we started from scratch. That's what you get, are these big holes in the ground. But if you the easy mode, so you have a bunch of stuff on the map. Right. Comes with all perks. I don't have any of that. I normally don't use any of the basic farmer stuff. I normally go straight to start from scratch. The way I like using the map is I don't like really for the modder to be too much of a dictator on how the story. I normally have an idea how I want the story to go, and I just run with it. And then the map is just the place where it all takes place. So usually I shut off all the animation. I think the animations are cool. Nothing against them personally, but I normally turn them off. And then, so that way when I set up the road network for courseplay and auto drive, everything will work right. And then I work on it. And I think I said it in the last episode that if you're on Mars and they have nuclear power generators, right? It's not like they can go out and get plutonium and uranium, diluted uranium everywhere. Right? Even on Mars, it has to come from a very specific source, right? You have to be able to get to it. And I imagine on Mars it'd be difficult since there's not a lot of big mining equipment there. You have to take everything there. Know to take it there, right? And it has to be able to fit on a transport ship that could only carry 100 tons at a time, right? So if you have a crane that's more than 100 tons, right? You're going to have to take it in 100-ton increments, right? Because that's how much the ship can carry. Right? And they're saying they might, in fully expendable mode, they can go up to 300 tons, but you're not going to fully expend those whole rockets going to Mars. It'd be too expensive. It cost you $12 million a flight. If I was like a private contractor, I'd have to pay them $12 million just to deliver a crane to Mars, right? Plus the crane, I'm not making a crane, so I'm going to have to lease the crane. And then the crane company is going to want security, right? Because they may never get the crane back on another planet. So, you know, so there's a lot of negotiating you have to go on in real life. So you want to have all these cars just flying around, especially with the new colony, trying to get established. It'd be like a military outpost almost. Trying to get established, trying to get organized. I was on a aircraft carrier for 5 years, and I was part of the recommissioning team on that. And as the ship was being built, we show up like just right after the ship is christened, basically. The president's wife comes out and hits the front of the ship with a champagne bottle. The ship is essentially a big haul, but they still got a lot of work. It's still 2 years before commissioning, right? Decommissioning takes place. And pre-commissioning crew is only like a couple hundred people at that point, and it starts to grow. So when you get to the commissioning part 2 years later, you got about maybe 2,000 people at the command, right? And I would think the Mars colony, for the most part, would be under some type of military governance, because they're the ones overseeing security. And then in this world, we have SpaceX. They would be the main contractor, right? So it would work similar to that. When you're first building the ship doesn't belong to the Navy. It doesn't belong to the government. It belongs to the shipyard, which in my case was Newport News Shipyard, right? In Virginia. They own the ship. So, but they're contracted by the fleet. They call future construction. And they sort of are married for 20 years. Well, in a carrier sense, it takes 20 years to build an aircraft carrier, so they spread the cost out over 20 years. That's how they finance them. So the first 10 years of the build, the ship is essentially on paper, right? And then when you get into the next 10 years where the actual construction begins, the fabrication. At that time when my ship was being built, the Washington, it was the second ship of that type that was built with prefabricated modules. And prior to that in the Lincoln was before us, all ships prior to that weren't built that way. So they were they would lay the keel out, build up the hull, and then the superstructure, or what people call the island, that's built last. And then everything sort of built. Depending on where they start on the ship, the center out, or the back of the ship to the front of the ship, the back of the ship. But when I went in, they started doing prefabricating. They would build small sections of the modules for the ship, sections inside a factory, right? And then the cranes there could live 900 tons. Crane, and then they would build the modules small, and then lift them in the section. That's how they would build the ship. And that right there takes about a year, 2 years for that phase. And then the pre-commissioning team comes in after that. As it's completing the dry dock work, it goes into the water and sits there and makes sure the ship isn't leaking. Check the weld and stuff. And to get the ship acclimated to the water and the environment, they have to operate in steel, so forth. And then that takes another 2 years, up to 3 years. And then once you get to the commissioning ceremony and the pre-commissioning phase is over, then you go to where they update the ship, because when they laid out the ship, all the parts were about 20 years ago. So the stuff that they have to install with government is 20 years out of date. So then you have to take all that stuff out and put all brand new stuff on there, right? So that takes another 2 years to do. Right? So fix anything that went wrong with the ship, right? Anything that they learned, and so forth. And then, so I imagine Mars colony would work the same way. It's sort of a hybrid. It's sort of a government system, and then there's let's just say it's the U.S., United Nations, and international law, are usually governed by treaties. And then I imagine Mars would have to have a treaty. And the provisional government of colony would have its own little government. Right. And then the farmers would be a part of that. Right? They're part of the initial industry going in there. And then whether they have power or not, they have to be able to farm. People have to eat at the end of the day. So the government would have to provide all that initial, at least for the first 10 years of the country. That's, if, for whatever reason, the quickest route to Mars is 6 months journey. There and 6 months journey back. You hit the window right. However, the window comes around every 2 years. So if you miss your window, you gotta wait 2 years for the planet's in the right alignment. Right? And so a round trip to Mars could take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. So if you're sending supplies, right, whoever the logistic officer there is with the rocket, they have to plan everything going out in 2-year intervals. So stuff that's higher priority, they want that to go immediately. Right whenever the plant's on, and stuff that there's no time limit on, it can take up to 2 years to ship back to Earth. But so forth. So they probably aren't going to be shipping anything back because it'd be a waste of money because they spend all that money shipping it there, right? And then they'd have to spend all that money coming back, which is about the economics of the Starship, I heard, is around $10 million. I think it's about $2 million to operate the rocket. So SpaceX has to spend $2 million to operate the rocket. So when you pay $10 million, that recovers the cost. So they're planning to send 1,000 ships at a time. So they got to be ready to go every 2 years. They go 1,000 ships at a time. But it's somewhere between 1 and 1,000. How many ships are coming over in each window? But then they got to come back. So the initial people there, let's say it goes in 2-year cycle. The initial people there will have to build a reactor, more than likely a fission reactor, because nobody knows how to build a fusion reactor, right? On Earth, let alone Mars, would be impossible at this point, right? And humans have to operate, so if the atmosphere is minus 300 degrees, if your lowest ambient temperature is measured in Kelvin, probably aren't going to be a human walking around there. And the air pressure is too low for humans, and there's no oxygen. Although you could probably make oxygen and water out of the atmosphere, but methane. That still requires a lot of energy to do that. So to even build a reactor there, right, they'd have to prefabricate it, install it, and then hopefully it's built right to begin with, which it probably won't be. So let's say they get the reactor going. The main function of the reactor is going to go to heat the plant, right? And by plant, I mean when you build a housing area, which includes all the commercial property, residential area, it's called a plant. Excuse me. They design things, they're called plant. The Army calls them architecture. And, that's what the government uses. DAO. What's the government? GS services, government services. They're usually the prime contractor job. So that's how you role playing it. It could take a while to get the reactors going, and all that the energy would have to go to heating up the environment and lots of it. So they're not going to waste. So you see all these cars running around here, speeding on by. They're not going to do that. In Star Wars, they can do that because they got portable fusion reactors that they're carrying around with their hand, right? To fit in the X-Men, okay? If you got that kind of technology, it's easy. But that's not what going to Mars is going to be like in the modern thing. Current technology won't be that way. They just can't fit a reactor in the back pocket So massive. And it weighs more than a reactor. I think it weighs more than 100 tons. A small one is more than 100 tons. So, and then it's going to have to be built on site with a limited. The people building the reactor are going to be people that probably don't know anything about building a reactor, right? They're just going to follow directions on how to put it together. Most of the stuff will be prefabricated on Earth and assembled. Right? But you're going to have an engineer go out there and make it all work. So assuming all that went right, and that's what we have here, the structure, you aren't going to be wasting all that power on electric vehicle. They're just not. Now imagine as soon as they can get methane operating, most of the stuff there will be methane powered tractors, because that's the most abundant energy source there is, methane, naturally in the environment. The environment naturally produces it. Right. So that's probably how they're going to do it. And then it's just a matter of extracting oxygen and water, which they plan to do from ice cap. But for making rocket fuel, I think the process for doing that, one of the byproducts is water. Whether it's drinkable water, I don't know. But, potable water. But it's a long way from that from who's got the guts to drink it. It'll be another. I guess if you're dying from lack of hydration, you probably would take that chance. But then when we got all past that, most of the water will be going to survival, irrigating these fields, because the environment itself doesn't have it now. So I would think, now my background in farming, a little more of a gardener. I understand how plants work. I understand how loom is made. I understand all the different processes of loom. I just started studying potatoes and how they're grown and root. So that's what I started out seriously gardening with potatoes. And so if you don't know anything about gardening, the potato is probably the best plant to start with, because it's very forgiving. It doesn't require a whole lot of hardship, but you just need to set the conditions right, and then it'll grow. Okay, so plants germinate at a certain temperature. So the cool thing with a potato is its own seed. The root is its own seed. So you can put the potato in the ground and it'll grow. Right? There's no real process of making the seed. Nothing extraordinary. Right? And it doesn't matter if it's a regular potato, sweet potato, russet potato. The soil that you're growing in, the environment that you're growing in, determine what kind of potato you get out of it. And no one's grown anything on Mars, so we don't know. So the first few years of the colony will probably be just getting the soil right, temperature. So you're going to have micronutrients. I should preface this. What a nutrient is. When people use the word nutrient, okay, they mean you take a solution of water, an aqueous solution, and you put things that the body, human body or animal body or plant body, can consume. And the plant body and human body handles that process naturally. Right? It makes a byproduct. So the human body, it has three main things that it uses: water, salt, and sugar. And then it takes protein and it converts the protein into amino acids, And from the amino acid, that's how your body heals itself or repairs itself. Except for the brain, which uses cholesterol. Without cholesterol, your brain won't heal. All these people running around trying to have a zero cholesterol diet are silly because your body needs cholesterol to heal. Your brain won't heal. You'll end up with some type of dementia at some point. Right? And your arteries, adipose tissue, the way it constructs itself is through that fat material that it uses to create the membrane of the cells. And so if you go to cut out meat products and stuff in your diet and no cholesterol, your blood vessels are going to become very porous. And that's just going to pour through it. You end up dying from it. The body won't be able to heal. So, in terms of farming and gardening, those processes have to happen. Okay, so we're gonna, the first batch of, when I say micronutrient, I mean like the bacteria in the soil and stuff, right? And so when you go throw some type of plant fiber in the ground, right, and you wet it, after a while the microorganisms move in and they start eating and consuming it, and that's why you get the black loam comes out from the sand, right? It mixes in there. And when you do your soil analysis like I do, like if you start from just straight sand, trying to create loam, you have to use water over time. Microorganisms move in. And then you scoop it up with a jar and do your analysis. It layers it out. You see all the different layers of dirt, and then that's what creates the loam. And so, once those microorganisms start thriving, your soil is going to start thriving, right? So, in that soil, you're going to have parasites moving, which are like worms and other things, because they consume the microorganisms, right? Fungus and all that plays a role in the soil, right? And then and it's a natural process. So when you get up to the more advanced organisms like cows, bulls, and humans, they're going to need all that stuff to survive naturally, right? And that takes a long time, more than 20 years, right? So if we're role-playing that in a serious way, I know there's a limitation to the game, but that's where we're starting in our journey. So assuming all that goes right, the farmer has to come in here, and then these fields have all probably been laid out by a mechanical engineer or electrical engineer, whoever the main engineer, government engineer for the project is. And they're usually not a farmer. They don't really know how to, they have no real experience in growing anything. They grow small little things in labs, maybe a garden, a greenhouse. But that's a very small scale stuff to what a farm is going to be, right? As I said in the last episode, a small family farm in the United States is about 300 acres. That's a small family farm. And when you go to the East Coast, not like Georgia, that's usually what type of farms you're dealing with, these small little farms. And the further west you go in the United States, you get the more industrial, commercial farms. And those guys are like real farmers. They got like a 3,000 acre farm, 5,000 acre farm, something like that. It's a real farm. Right. So they're on a whole different scale. But the process is pretty much the same. You gotta make the soil, which is the loom. And starting in Farm Sims 19, I think the game moved away from, I call it video arcade farming. Getting down into the gritty part of how real farming is. And they begin with precision farming and so forth. And so you have to go out, measure the soil, and see what kind of condition the soil is in first before you grow anything, right? Then you have to figure out what kind of seed that you want to grow, because that seed has to germinate at a certain temperature. Now, in Farming Simulator, up there on the top of the map, you'll see the temperature. And up there you have you have the main temperature, air temperature, which mine's in Fahrenheit. And then below you have two different temperatures, the left and right side. Okay, that's the average temperature of the air, and the right number is the average soil temperature, which is usually a 10-day average in real farming. Real farming, real life, take a 10-day average. And what you do is they take a thermometer, stick it in the ground, a foot, 3 feet, so forth, however long it goes down, and you measure it over a period of 10 days. You feed that recording. Imagine it goes to a national data collection center, where they get that kind of information. There's people whose job is to get soil samples. So now, since in the game we're simulating that with the precision farming, every time I send out the lab analysis, and every time I prep the field, I'm doing the analysis. That's where it all feeds back to you, the agriculture department. And there's usually a state, a county. Well, most states, I live in Florida, so the agricultural commissioner, Florida, they're big. They're the ones that work with the farmer. They figure out all that, how to get all that data, and how to use it, and distribute it to people that need it, and it gives them a consensus of how much food they can possibly grow. Usually government planning is 10-year intervals. So they do like 10, 20, 30, 40, all the way out 50 years, and even all the way out to 100 years. So generation is about 20 years. I normally am estimating it about 25 years, because that's how long a jubilee is, 25 years. So most people, on the average, will live about 3 jubilees in their life. 75 years. People will live past 75. In 6 jubilees, it's a hit or miss. But people are eating better these days, so you're seeing more people live past 100, all the way up until 120 now, 125. It's not too far unheard of nowadays, which 50 years ago was unheard of, just because the diets are getting better over the lifespan of organisms. Now, this is where psychology plays an important role in anthropology. Those are my fields of study. As a scientist, as I'm approaching this as a scientist and farmer in the game, that I'm incorporating that into my role playing. So other people follow the theory, like there's scientists too, engineers, they can kind of follow along. People work it out. But remember, we're trying to build a Mars colony. So, how psychophysics works in here, you have to understand how physiology relates to the organism, and the organism developed over the lifespan of that organism. Plus, they live outside of psychology when you get into anthropology. They live in our culture, but they're called climes. Cline is an ecological term. Anthropology, they call it the culture. So forth, all the way out to the species. Anthropology means that species related to humans, which are usually primates. And then, but you still have to study all the other organisms. In psychology, they call that it escaped me. It'll come to me in a minute. But there's a field of psychology that studies all the other organisms outside of humans. Psychology isn't just about humans, what it studies is it studies mental process and behavior, and it studies all organisms. So, take a look at where we're at. I'm trying to lay out the force play. At this point, we're in this reel. We're 40 minutes into this reel, and we're coming up on the first problem. I tried to get out of the truck on the course play, and then I got stuck again. So now how we're playing this out in the role playing is we're saying that there was an air leak. Real. And, the truck determined atmospheric leak, and so it won't let me out of the tractor. Right. Safety first. And then I got stuck in there for hours. I had to wait for people to come get me and say that there's enough oxygen in the air. Right. Normally you harbor in place there. Right. So that would probably be a standard type of drill. And I alluded to that in the first episode where I remember in kindergarten we did fallout shelter drills back in the early 70s because the Cold War was still going on. You had to know where all the fallout shelters were in case of a nuclear attack. And that was still prevalent in the early 70s. When I was in the 80s, we weren't doing that anymore. I didn't really hear much about it in the 80s. But the Cold War ended in 1989, so people didn't take it all that serious in the mid-80s, and that's why you had movies like Red Dawn and stuff came out, because they were trying to get the public aware of the nuclear war. It can be anywhere around the corner, right? Right. So if you're living on Mars, you're not going to go through a nuclear war, but the conditions of a nuclear war can happen at any time because you're living in an alien environment, right? Right. The natural environment there is not natural for humans to be there, and most earthly organisms of life. So the whole environment there is artificial. So it's manufactured. And then, so that's what we're simulating. The game won't let us out. Whenever in role playing, you run into just a limitation of the game, right? Or a conflict of interest between the programmer, the map modder, and the player. We call those laws. I call them laws. Well, the regulations don't allow that. Government regulations. How I refer to it as. But and that's usually how life is. Why can't I do that? Because the government said no. Dang it. Damn you, government. I said, dang it. Anyway. So here I am stuck in the tractor. Can't get the thing of the game. It looks like it's locked up, but it's not locked up. Can't hit any other controls. The only control that works is the escape key. So luckily it allows you to save stuff, but it doesn't do that every time. So replicating this fault can be tricky. The only thing that replicates consistently is you can't get out of the tractor. But as far as the UI locking up, it's different. You can see there's movement. I can move the camera around a little. And I can move the cursor around. I can Alt-Tab out and go work on the other screen, which I did. And so, at least have that functionality. If that works, all I have to do is just escape, close out the program and restart it. Okay. And that's what we ended up doing. So, but we went 44 minutes. In the last episode, we went almost a full hour before we ran into our first problem, which was couldn't get out of the tractor. Right? So now here we are, almost 44 minutes into this clip, and we can't get out of the tractor while we're doing the course play. So, but at least the course play works, and the auto drive works, and the course play works. So here I am. I'm showing I'm able to save, so that function works. So the game isn't locked up. There's not a problem with the game. There's not really a problem with the map in sense of I don't feel it's a technical problem. I think it's just a setting for that type of mod. Whatever they modded their tractor from isn't allowed on that map, because later on when we switch to camera B, or the B stuff, I turn off all the mods and bring them up slowly one at a time. And the tractors that come with the mod all work. Hold on. Yeah, I had to sneeze. Hold on. Okay, we reset. Here we are. It's only been a minute, but I restarted the tape because it was about 40, almost an hour. I like to reset the tape every hour, roughly. And you don't run into latency issues at that point, where the voice track and video are off set. If you record using OBS Studio, they have a tendency to do that a lot. The voice gets out of sync with the video, and that's because when you're recording, the video is recording at one speed and the audio is recording at another speed. And usually the audio is in real time, close to real time. The video, because it takes a lot more memory to record, lag, right? So they're out of sync here. Here we are. I'm looking up stuff. I went into the thing, read the guy's notes here quite a bit. After this episode, I couldn't get the tractor to work. One, I went and ate dinner. Then I came back and I researched stuff on Grok. I found Grok to be very useful in troubleshooting this. Grok said a lot of people. Let me see if I can bring it up. You won't see it on the screen there, but I can bring it up. Read it to you. I find Grok to be the better of all the AI search engines. Especially when you're trying to troubleshoot a technical thing. Here it is. I wrote it. A game locked up on Mars map. Vehicle exit. Okay. My question to Grok was, why on FS22 on the Mars colony map does the game lock up when I try to get out of the vehicle? Okay. Grok sent me a report and said, the issue where the game locks up when attempting to exit a vehicle on the Mars colony in Farm Simulator 22, or FS22, could be attributed to several factors based on the information available. Number one, mod conflict. Mods can often introduce bugs or conflicts, especially if they are not fully compatible with the map or other mods. A common issue reported involves mods affecting vehicle controls and interaction. For example, moving all mods and then reintroducing them one by one can help identify if a specific mod is causing the lockup. Problem with exiting vehicle has been noted in other contexts as well, suggesting that mod conflicts might be a frequent culprit. That's number one. Number two, specific vehicle or attachment issues. Attachments are the implements, the farmers call them. some players have experienced game freezes or character issues when using certain vehicles or attachments. For instance, there is a report of a game-breaking bug involving the Case Maxim CVX145 with a specific loader attachment when attempting to exit the vehicle after manipulating big bags, results in the player character disappearing and loss of control. This indicates that particular vehicle mod combinations could be problematic on the Mars map. 3. Auto drive mod issue. If you're using auto drive mod, there's a documented issue where the game freezes when starting a route until the vehicle reaches its destination. This might not directly relate to exiting the vehicle, but could contribute to similar freezing behavior if the vehicle's AI is engaged. Number 4. Map-specific bugs. Mars Colony map, being a mod itself, might have inherent bugs or performance issues not fully resolved in its update. Specific problems like camera or control lockup when interacting with certain map elements or in certain conditions have been discussed in forums related to different maps and mods. And it said to troubleshoot, it said remove all the mods. Try running the game without any mods to see if the issue persists. If it does not, start reintroducing mods one by one. Check for map updates. Ensure you have the latest version of Mars Colony map. Sometimes newer versions fix previous bugs. Game settings. Check your game settings for any unusual configurations that might interact poorly with the map or vehicle. Game save corruption or save game corruption. Sometimes save files can become corrupted, leading to unexpected behavior. Try starting a new game or loading an older save to check if the issue persists. And it says if the problem continues after these steps, it might be beneficial to report the issue directly to the map's creator or on the official FS22 forum for more targeted assistance. Remember, mod compatibility and game performance can vary greatly, so community feedback and developer patches are key to resolving such issues. And that's what Grok reported to me, which was pretty extensive, I thought, and was actually very helpful. So, following Grok's recommendation, I did the first one was remove all the mods. So, after we ran into this issue through time, right, I decided to do that, and I had already introduced the auto drive stuff in here, so I wasn't sure how that was going to affect it. I'd have to redo everything, right? So as I was eating dinner, trying to figure that out, I thought that the best way to do it was just to make a map B, turn all the mods off, because with these you could just deselect it. One button you hit, you deselect all, and then you bring the map up. And then if everything works right, then you bring in the ones you want. The course play and the auto drive. I brought those in. And then we'll see as we get into the B clip in the next episode, all that sort of works out for itself. And we got quite a ways in, and as I got more confident with each mod, then I started adding more mods in. So on this so far in this story, we made our little patch of land, our house, our shelter, right? And so we had our dogs there, we were there, and then our faithful companion, and then trying to build a house that doesn't require electricity. That's usually key in farming. And then if we need to run any power, just run it off the tractor, because the tractor has a computer on board anyway. That's probably the better one to use. And a laptop. So, alright. So here we are. going over my mod here, I was thinking that maybe that 1455 tractor has an issue. So testing that theory out by getting another light tractor. And this is the second tractor we used of the case tractor. And the issue still came up. Now, because the issue comes up in the second vehicle, in the first vehicle, it doesn't necessarily mean case tractors are broken or the game isn't really working with them. It is and it isn't. What it really means is you can't get out of the vehicle. Right. Why, we don't know. So when I decided to remake the map, I decided to bring in, because I watched a couple of videos on it on YouTube, and people said they had a lot of those problems. Mr. Seeley P, who I follow, and when he did his walkthrough, he does one from 9 months ago, and then he does a more recent one. There was a lot of beta testing going on. And he suggested in the video that the developers of the map decided to bring in their own vehicle to solve a lot of issues. So that's what I decided to do. Because Brock made that suggestion. Mr. CVP made that suggestion. That's the route I went. And decided to just make another map. Keep the other map how it is. It's there forever. They might fix the map at some point. So start another map with the internet tools. And then we'll bring up each mod one at a time. Initially we'll just use what's available in the mod itself, because the whole DLC is a mod, right? So that goes beyond just the map, right? Right. So, and there's a whole list of mods out there, and it's quite tedious. Hold on. Got a cough. I explained my coughing thing in the last episode, so I might have a coughing spell. Usually there's a temperature change in the room. If the culprit, so I'm going to try not to cough on the mic, because it's a condenser mic, and it's like 2 a.m. in the morning here where I do my voiceovers, because that's when it's quiet enough I can do a voiceover. Anyway, so all our forces have aligned in the decision I've made as the head of gardening and agriculture on our Mars colony, 2025. I decided to, here's my other farm. I recorded a little just to show you how my main farm works. All the mods are working. How it's supposed to, that's how auto drive is supposed to work. Bringing my service truck over. Yeah. Now the rest of this, sure if I recorded it or not. I don't think I did. I think I just recorded this little bit and I came back and did this all off. I was setting up the field. Field 12 and field 20 something. Anyway, field 6. So, yeah. All those mods work on another map. So, so they should be fine. So, in episode 3, we'll finally get into all the B. I call it Mars Alternative Map B. And a lot of these things correct themselves as we use the ones that come already with the main DLC, the Mars Colony, which comes with it a whole list of vehicles and stuff. So uh, we went to make a simple route. Keep it simple, stupid. KISS. That's the methodology I use. Now here's my little trailer I buy. How a role player does it. I go set this little vehicle out there so the guys working out in the field, out in the county, they don't gotta go all the way back to the farm to use the bathroom. And I don't want them using the bathroom in the truck or going behind a tree and fighting with the animals out there. I set this little trailer out there. It's got 4 bunks, got a shower, got a toilet, got a kitchen, got a microwave, got television in there. Got a, you see there, it's got a Starlink dish on there, so they got high-speed internet anywhere in the world. Look at that. I take care of my employees. You're doing a job for me. These guys are making like $1,000 a day. Like, just to sit there in the tractor eating a bologna sandwich. I put a refrigerator in the tractor. Right. So, they're all comfortable. I go drop that trailer off. And, so forth. So here's our baler going to the job site. That's our, I like that tractor a lot. That's the 620 quad track. It's a nice, I like all the Case tractors. Those are my favorite tractors. I'm not a John Deere guy, except for my golf cart. That's a John Deere golf cart. It's the which do this all the surveying work for the field. And I imagine that surveying work's gonna be critical when you're on Mars, right? It's the thing that's gonna provide all the data for the government. Yeah, I got my course play up now. I reduced the size of the auto drive. Well, this is the end. We'll catch y'all in the next video. Thank you for joining.